Hi everyone, welcome again. This is Alichi from the Curvy Cauldron, and this is episode 5 of this series this week at the Curvy Cauldron. What are we gonna talk about this week? A lot has happened in my life, and a lot is still happening. And we're going to start off actually with a poem that I read this morning that I thought, since we're in spring, it brought in something about spring, but it also has a bit of melancholy to it where it's like feeling that something old is new again, but also the old thing is also being replaced. It has the melancholy of that feeling to it, but then it also describes the coming of spring and the things that emphasize spring. I'll read it to you, but it's a translated poem. It's a translated Chinese poem, and it's from this book called Poems of the Masters, China's Classic Anthology of Tang and Song Dynasty Verse. And it's translated by someone called Red Pine. So I'll be reading a poem where this court official called Tu Shenyan is replying to a poem by Prime Minister Liu of Chinling. And here goes the poem. Only an impotent official is truly surprised when things become new. Red clouds giving birth to the ocean dawn, plums and willows ferrying spring across the river. Clear skies inciting yellow birds, sunshine turning duckweed green. Suddenly hearing a familiar tune, I think of home and dry my eyes. So that was the poem. It brings out, all the beauty and the things that you see during spring, but it also has there's a sense of melancholy that belies this poem to a certain extent where it almost feels like this official is sad that spring is coming. Another thing I wanted to talk about is my ebook will be launching May 31st. So please let me know in the comments. I'm trying to gauge reactions. Have you bought the book yet? If not, why? And what is stopping you? And if you love poetry, tell me the kind of poetry you like. Also, I am thinking, and I want to get you guys' opinion on this. The paperback is currently 13.49, so I am thinking of doing a discount and making it the same price as the ebook, so that you can be able to get one or the other or both, just to celebrate the launching of the ebook. So please let me know. Okay, now let's get into certain things. Oh, and I forgot to show you the book. This is it. Taste for Hypocrisy. Okay, now let's get into it. I am going to say one of the things I like and one of the things that I dislike for this week. My current like is this. I got this. It's a flower pot seller. And I got this when I went to Oaxaca in Mexico. And I'll link the article, the first part of the article for my Oaxaca trip. I'll link it in the bio. But yeah, I got this from an artist named Angelica. Our guide took us to her. And this is a, a sculpture of, not a sculpture, but like a clay molding of a flower pot seller. And this right here is called chaneke. And I guess in translating in American terms, that means spirit animal. Yeah, so this is her coming to sell flowers in the market, and this is her with her chineke um, coming to the market, and this will bring her good fortune as she's selling her pot. So yeah, I like this. I like that I can just put it on as a display. Um, I like how it looks. I like the intricacy. If you look very deeply, you see how intricate it is. Yeah, I like it. I love it. And my current dislike is something that has dragged on for a long time. As you guys know, I am dealing with family issue, and one of the things with dealing with that family issue is having to navigate the Nigerian healthcare system for that family member. And when I tell you that it has been a very interesting, and that's putting it lightly, but it's been a very hard going. And what do I mean by this? On one hand, it feels like, oh, you live in abroad now, you think you can talk down to us. But no, this is actually something that needs to be taken care of. So there are many things wrong with healthcare everywhere, and healthcare in Nigeria is no exception. One of the things that really grated on my nerve in this navigating the healthcare system for this family member is the horrible customer service. Some of these hospitals you can't even reach. Some of them you reach and there is just no decorum. You're talking to somebody on the phone and they're talking to somebody else at the same time that they're talking to you. And I understand that people can be busy, but that just adds a layer of frustration, especially if you're serving people where that could be the hardest moment of their life or their loved one's life. There has to be a layer of customer service, good customer service. We're not asking you to be the best, but at least some basic level of decency. Some hospitals were good with this, but some of them were just horrible. Another thing, especially with the healthcare system, is, and I've read some articles about this because I was so disappointed and so distraught. Some of the articles I read have also touched on this thing, and that is standardizing patient identification. And I understand some of the hospitals in Nigeria still use, paper, like it's not the electronic health records is not really a thing in some hospitals because they can't afford it, and some of them the government really isn't doing much for. So that part I understand, but there really has to be some form of, did you know that one of the hospitals even spelled this family's member's name wrong? Their first name was spelled wrong in one of the medical reports. And then one of the hospitals has a wrong birthday for this family member. And then another hospital has a completely different birthday for this family member. Now, here in the US where I live, when a patient comes in and maybe they're not in a place where they can think for themselves, or they have their ID on them or whatever, we do something called a trauma name. And then after patient is identified, then they merge. If they're in the system, then they merge their trauma name and their normal name together. Or if they're not in the system, then they create a new system account for them with their regular name and merge it with the trauma name. I understand that there are certain things that you can't ask for a country that doesn't have 247 regular electricity without having generators, and that there are still hospitals where surgeons do surgeries with torchlights, flashlights. I understand that you can't ask a lot from a country that is going through that. And I also understand that some of these can seem like abroad, or you think you're better than us, or you've gone there now and you feel like you can tell us what to do and blah blah blah. You can think anything you want, but whenever it comes to patient care, we already have a bad healthcare system. We just need to make sure that whatever we're doing, we can try to at least find ways to mitigate those problems so that we're not harming ourselves. So, how do I know that that patient record that I got is the same patient record for this particular family member that we're going through this with? How do I know? How do I know that the other hospital doesn't have another patient with the same name and similar details? How do I know? And you can say all you want, but this affects us all. Whether you are home, whether you're in the diaspora and you're navigating it for your parents or your siblings or your grandma or your grandpa or whatever. Like one of my underlying like fear right now is maybe going to taking a family member for like a regular checkup or something, and then we get there and they're like, what's your name and your birthday? And I'll now turn to that family member and go, Ele Moroge. And then that person will now tell me, oh, June 1, 1990. And then we'll note that down. And then I'll bring that family member again for like a checkup in 3 years and ask, Ele Moroge again. And then that person will say, oh, January 3rd, 1990. And then we'll now note that down again. Like, I know they're trying to do the whole NIN thing and the whole identification number thing. And the article I read just said that, it's going to be a hard road. There hasn't been a way to actually get everybody to adopt that. And I understand the risks of these things. Some places are already short staffed. That could mean more work for the nurses, especially places that don't have electronic records where they will now have to handwrite everything or find a way to staple things together and make sure that patients are linked to each other. I understand that that can pose a lot of financial consequences, but then what is the alternative? Maybe we need to start having patients bring some kind of form of ID with them. Maybe create a hospital ID, a general hospital ID that they can carry with them everywhere. Because we have to find a way to implement a system in Nigeria. Like, these same people know how to, us as a country, we know how to go to the airport and actually present the passport and the documents they ask for, right? Maybe we should start doing that for the hospitals. And then the people that come in and it's an emergency, we can assign them a trauma name or like and then finally we merge them together. And something has to give. We have to come up with a system. Now, this is the US one is just an example. But us as Nigerians, we have to find a way to come up with a system to make sure that we are trying to get things in order. It is infuriating, it is hard, and it makes you really question everything. It makes you question, is this even the right medical record for this patient? It really makes you question that. Some people that are navigating this healthcare system navigate it at the hardest points in their lives or in the lives of their family members. And imagine having to deal with things like medical records not matching or bad customer service. And I understand too, patient care, like the patient also has a responsibility, which is why I'm saying we need to standardize something. Maybe before a patient comes for their regular checkup, they need to come with an ID. And then if they come in and it's an emergency, find a system where at the end of the day they have to present, once they come to, or a family member comes for them, they have to present some kind of ID and merge things together. Because it's unbecoming as a country. Like, how are we going to, we're in 2025, how are we moving backwards as a country? How? And also, another thing that this reminds me of, we joke about it, but it's one of those things where whenever you ask a Nigerian parent about your birth certificate, they either act like it's the most sacred thing, and then they wrap it up and hide it under the bed or wherever. Or some of them don't even know where the birth certificate is. So you come today and you ask your parents your birthday and they tell you January. And you come the next year and you ask them and they tell you February. Like, it's starting to become an issue. And the way, not just in the healthcare, but the way we citizens treat birthday information also has a hand in this issue. Because it's this thing of, oh, today they'll ask, you take the patient for their checkup and they ask them, and then one more again, then they'll say something, and then all they know is that 60 ta, 50 ta. Again, I understand that some of the times when they gave birth to our parents or our grandparents was around the time of the Civil War, and some of these things were not properly documented. But again, if we decide that, okay, January 5, 2020, or January 5, 1985, or whatever, or 1960 was the birthday of this person, and we print it on an ID card that this person will use to go to whichever hospital, and at least when something happens and maybe they need to go to for a referral, those medical records are matching. Please, let's make it make sense as a country. But yeah, anyways, that is my disappointment, and I got it off my chest, and I really hope that we do as much as we can, both the patient and the healthcare people in the healthcare system in Nigeria. Hope that we do as much as we can to make sure that health records are matching and patient information is actually matching, and we take it seriously as a country. Well, that was a bit of a rant, but thank you so much for coming to this week at the Curvy Cauldron. Don't forget to buy my book, Tasteful Hypocrisy, my poetry collection. I promise you will love this book. It is for everybody. There's something in here for everybody. Please, please, please buy my book. Thank you so much. I will see you later. I love you.